wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quench the thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic.
Built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah. I've been doing this, I'm on it. I just wanna be iconic. Sipping on a gin and tonic, got me going off when I'm on this topic, yeah. If I ever play, I want it. You know that I'm always honest. Stay away from those who are toxic. Keep them out your face, no way, you don't want them, yeah.
Don't try to drain my energy. The enemy is everything. It's mentally, unhealthily, spreading like a rare disease. But I won't let it get to me. I don't need your therapy. I can leave a legacy of leading by intensity. Come on, we can fight this. Freedom is priceless. Spread just like a virus. Living in a crisis. Do you feel courageous? Do you seek greatness? Trust me, you can take it. Go on and take your aim.
I'm built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Betting Pros NBA live stream playoff edition here as we roll into the regular games, the 1-8 games. We were here last week with you with the 9-10 matchups, and we can only hope to exceed last week's 9-1 performance. 9 of the 10 picks correct. Only one that didn't hit. San Antonio did not cover there against the Pelicans, but all the other ones were great. So we hope to continue it today. Maybe go for a perfect 10-0 or even better. I'm Mike Randall. Follow me on Twitter at Randall Rant, and I join you here Wednesdays and Fridays on Betting Pros to talk about the NBA. We're going to look at sides, totals, and player props. Of course, make sure to check out our Betting Pros cheat sheet where you can have all the insight into our projections as well. You know the drill. Make sure you subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel. Hit that like button right below. Make sure to add comments, add your picks and your thoughts here for this live stream. We have fantastic giveaways that happen every so often, so make sure that you subscribe and you're up to date here on what we project, on what we do here at Betting Pros, because we had a De'Aaron Fox jersey. We had a Dennis Rodman signed jersey. So many great things, and I'm sure there's more coming up soon. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We will, as always, use lines from DraftKings, FanDuel, PointsBet, and BetMGM. Always important to shop around, especially now, end of the season, playoffs. Sportsbooks are getting very sharp. Make sure that you get the best line there for the picks that you like. So many great deals at all the sites. Don't forget, of course, new users here to BetMGM. Bet $10 on any event. You can win $150 in free credit. Just use that promo code JUICE150 at sign up. The link is in the video description or pinned in the live chat. And here we go, folks. 3 tremendous games, some game 3s, some game 2s. Let's take a look and see where we fall tonight on the picks. We'll start with sides and totals. First up, probably the game of the night. Boston -3.5 versus Brooklyn, -112 on DK. We have an over-under right now around 226 points. Game 2 comes down to adjustments, and I just trust Ime Udoka, the head coach of the Celtics, to make those adjustments over Steve Nash. That game one, besides being incredibly compelling with a fantastic ending, was very interesting because for the most part, I thought the Celtics were going to take it. Then I thought the Nets were going to steal it. And in the end, the Celtics getting that basket won a game that they probably should have lost. Now, my question is, people are going to say that Kevin Durant's going to play better in this game. He probably is in totality, but he did have 23 points for a player who averages almost 30 points a game. So it's not like he had 15 or 16 points. And I certainly think that Kyrie Irving, I think it was 16 or 18 points in the fourth quarter, is not going to be at the same level against a defense in the Boston Celtics that's one of the best in the NBA this season. Kyrie finished up 39, 5, and 6. Durant, 23 points. That's a huge combination of points, and I think that's what they're going to get tonight. So maybe Durant does hit 30, but Kyrie's not having 39 again, and that's why I'm going with the Celtics and laying the points in this pick. I think that the Celtics are going to make adjustments. I think that the Nets are still a weak defensive team, so I expect a better defense on Kyrie Irving. I think the Nets are who they are. They're going to score. They're going to try to push the pace. They don't have a very deep bench. They don't pretend that they do. And I think they're going to be who they are. I don't trust Steve Nash, which is still a very young head coach here in the NBA. And Udoka has done a tremendous job with this defense and the switching. Andre Drummond was pretty much negated. Bruce Brown of the Nets, pretty much negated. So it's going to have to be Kyrie and it's going to have to be Durant. And I just think there's going to be some regression from Kyrie, and I expect the Celtics to play a little bit better and be a little bit better on defense. So I'm laying the points with the Celtics on this spread. The majority of bets right now are going with the Nets. The Nets almost won this game, last second shot by the Celtics, and now you're giving me 3.5 points. Yes, I'm going to lay those points and go with Boston tonight at home. I think the Celtics are still undervalued, and I think the Nets, people are flocking to the star power. Suppose one of them gets in foul trouble. Their bench is not very deep. I don't know if you get the same performance from Goran Dragic, who was fantastic. So I think the Celtics win this game and they cover. Now, as for the total, unders have been very hot in this playoffs across the board. Overs have been hot in this series. I do think the Nets have been very effective at limiting Jaylen Brown. The Nets' defensive strategy is basically to say we don't have a match for Jason Tatum. Kevin Durant, we can't get him in foul trouble. Otherwise, we'd be in trouble. So what's going to happen here is I think Jason Tatum is going to have his strong game as normal, and they're going to continue to limit Jaylen Brown. But my issue is I think Al Horford and the supporting cast of the Celtics is a lot better than the Nets supporting cast outside of those big two players. I trust the Celtics defense. Even last game when the scoring was super hot in the second and third quarter, that game only went over by 2.5 points. This is a critical matchup. The Nets can't lose this game. They don't want to go down 2-0. The Celtics want to keep home court, and they were certainly were. It was a wake up in that game one that they almost lost. So I'm taking the under here at 226, minus 109 on FanDuel. Celtics laying the 3.5 points, still undervalued by the market, even though they didn't cover in game one. I think they're the better team. I trust their adjustments better. I think they're the home team, which is always an advantage. And I think the Nets got a all-worldly game from Kyrie Irving, and I think he comes back to earth a little bit tonight. And I'm going to go with the under because even in the last game when the shot making was tremendous, it almost still went under even with those big points. So we're going under here. 226 at home with the Celtics. Make sure to put those questions in the live stream. Make sure to have questions and picks. Put them in there. We will get to them. First one up, Daryl Turner. Favorite personal NBA sports capping show on YouTube, bar none. Appreciate masterful NBA matchup host. I appreciate Daryl. We have to keep the good streak going from last time, so I appreciate those comments. Sinful Saint, Marcus Smart over 14.5 points. That's a little high for me, Sinful Saint, with 14.5 for Marcus Smart. I think he plays a lot. I would look to his points, rebounds, and assists. I don't know if he can get to 15 points because he's very hot or cold with the shooting. I think he gets his shots, and I think it's one of those bets that if he hits a couple threes early, you're going to feel good about it all game, but he could struggle like a Jay Crowder even, and I'm not sure, given his defensive assignment or what Udoka is going to do with him in terms of Kyrie and Durant and switching. I'm not sure if I feel he's going to get to 15 points. I like Marcus Smart. I just don't like that number. Next game, number 2. Folks, Philadelphia minus 1.5 versus Toronto minus 110 on DK, and the over-under is at 216.5. I loved the Raptors. I talked about this with Joe Pisapia when we did the podcast previewing the NBA playoffs. Love Toronto. What I don't love right now is what I have seen in the first two games. You can't have take lock in betting. What I have seen is a Raptors team that struggles to score at the rim. And this is a Raptors team that is limited, that does not have that many offensive options. You have Gary Trent, who's sick and is going to try to play. You have Scotty Barnes, who's out. You have Thad Young, who certainly didn't look completely healthy. And what you have with Pascal Siakam, he is not a player that hits a lot of threes. His over-under prop tonight, Siakam, for three-pointers is a half. So this is not a guy who scores a ton from the outside. He's had some games where he's hit 4 or 5, but it's very difficult to see that against the Sixers. He can't get to the rim with Joel Embiid. Tobias Harris has played quality defense. So you can't get there. And if Siakam can't get there, he's not going to have a massive scoring night. And if Siakam doesn't have a massive scoring night, who else is going to score for this limited Toronto team? Kem Birch. You saw Fred VanVleet, who had a big cash for me. His over 3.5 3-pointers, he cashed in the first quarter last game by hitting 4, and then he didn't hit another one until about 2 minutes left to go in the game. He ended up in that game, I think he was 5 of 16 from three-point range. Really, really a problem. I know Matisse Thybulle is not playing in Toronto because of the vaccine issue tonight, but he only played 10 games in game 2, so I think Doc Rivers started to transition some other players into the rotation for larger minutes because he knew that Thybulle's not going to be available. That means Danny Green's going to play, spoiler alert for our prop section, 38 points. He scored 38 minutes. He scored 11 points. I think the Sixers are ready to roll. The free throw discrepancy has been crazy in this series. I just don't think that the whistle is going to be that much different in Toronto. Do I think they'll get a better whistle? Of course. Do I think they'll get the majority of calls? Absolutely not. Embiid has been dominant. Doc Rivers got him the ball early. James Harden has been good with the assists. You saw that Tobias Harris was scoring. Maxey is a matchup nightmare, probably the most efficient shooter that we've seen in the NBA playoffs so far. If he's open, he hits those shots. I expect Toronto to play better at home. If you want to hit a Toronto first quarter line or you want to hit Toronto for the first half, which is -1 right now, that's fine. But in the end, I think the Sixers take this game. I really do. It's only 1.5 right now. I'm going to lay the 1.5 with the Sixers. I do not think Toronto can score consistently at the rim unless Joel Embiid gets in foul trouble, and I have seen no sign of that. Siakam is not going to have a 35 or 40-point game, which is what he will need to have because they are so limited by injuries. So I am laying the points with Philadelphia -1.5, and again, we are going to the under because I do think Toronto keeps this game close for the majority of the game. I don't think they're down 20 like they were in the third quarter in game 2, which means it has to be low scoring because they just don't have the weapons to be at that level of scoring 115, 120 points. It's not going to happen. Fred VanVleet, great player, gutsy player, still looks injured, doesn't look completely right to me. I don't think him and Siakam can score enough to get this team to a win, and I don't think they're going to go to the over. If they kept the game under last time, which they did in game 2, while still having some early foul trouble, they slowed the pace. I think they keep this game under as well. Second game here. Philadelphia -1.5 over Toronto and the under 216.5. Darryl asked, does the fact the Raptors don't have a center, is that hurting Toronto? It's hurting them because they're not getting second chance rebounds, and it's also hurting them because they can't do anything with Embiid getting away from the rim. On offense, Siakam is used to getting that ball top of the key, attacking one-on-one, finishing at the rim. He's pulling up. You're seeing him pull up more than Carmelo Anthony did when he was in his prime hitting those mid-range jump shots. So the problem, Darryl, I see is I don't think Siakam can have enough points here and have one of those big Siakam 35 and 12 games, which is what he's going to have because Fred VanVleet does not look right. Even though he was hot early, he eventually cooled off, and a player like Maxey and those other players in the backcourt seem to be able to slow him down. Stephen Mack, you take the Nets +3.5. No problem, Stephen. I'm on the opposite side. At least one of us is going to be right. That's great. Moving on, game 3. Bucks and Bulls. Folks, game 1 was an anomaly. Bucks were rusty, hadn't played in 7 days. Underdogs sometimes are live in game 1, but this is the Milwaukee team that I think is a world champion back-to-back level team. They are one of the favorites, and they should be one of the elite favorites, but you still have a good value on them in the future. They are a Golden State Warrior level team. If that's the case, you saw what the Warriors did against the Nuggets in game 2, And I think you're going to see that here with the Bucks hanging a big number on the Bulls. Head coach Mike Budenholzer said after game one, he's got to get Chris Middleton going. Giannis basically did everything himself. This was a team that was up in the first quarter of this game, 34-21, and then they let the Bulls back in. They will not let the Bulls back in tonight. I expect Middleton to have a big game. We'll talk about that in props. He'll get the screen and rolls going. He'll get some shots off of curls. Giannis had a dominant game, was well on his way to hitting over on all his numbers, except he got 5 fouls. So tonight, certainly he's going to be more careful. He's not a player that normally fouls out. Middleton and Holiday in game one were combined 10 of 29 from the field. That will be better. Holiday will slow down DeMar DeRozan a little bit. Middleton, 19-6-6 in the 3 regular season game against the Bulls. I think he goes back to that level of performance, going well over 20 points tonight. And don't forget, the Bucks have beaten the Bulls 17 of the last 18 times. I expect that to happen again. Bulls are struggling right now. The one thing the Bucks, who are a quality defensive team, they don't do well is defend the 3. So what the Bulls go? 7 of 37 from 3-point range against them in game one. That was the game for them to steal. This is not. I don't trust the Bulls defense, which was the 6th worst by defensive efficiency rating the last 2 weeks of the regular season. Bucks have beaten Chicago this year by 4, 6, 28, and 21. Let's go somewhere in the middle, laying the big number here, 10. I'm going to lay 10 on the Bucks defense, and I'm going to go to the under for a 3rd under in a row. Why? Because, again, the Bulls are going to be desperate here. This could be a blowout game, and you see sometimes in those blowout games, you get games that go under because the pace in the second half is not looking to go up and down because they're just looking to run out the clock. Games between these two teams, the Bulls and Bucks, 4-1 to the under this year. Critical game 2. I don't think it's a high-scoring game 2. I don't think the Bulls can win that type of game, and I expect the Bucks defense to lock down. And if the Bulls want to stay competitive, they can't get down early like they did last game. So I expect a big defensive performance. Give me the Bucks pulling away late by 13, 15 points, somewhere in there, and we will go under 225 minus 105 on FanDuel. Sinful Saint, do you trust Kevin Durant to hit 31 or Kyrie to hit 29? Well, look, if we're going to go with regression, and I support regression, positive and negative, I'm going under on Kyrie, and I think Durant goes over. They can't have Kyrie explode like that. I don't think Kyrie can shoot that well again in a very hostile environment, as you saw with the $50,000 fine in Boston. So I will fade the big performance, and I will go Kyrie under 29 and KD over the 31 if I had to make a pick there. Let's get to our player props, folks. Make sure to check out the player props on bettingpros.com/cheat sheet. There are tremendous values out there. Cheat sheet has been hot, especially the picks at the top. Let's go here and continue our hot streak from last time, see what we can do. First one up, and you know I say this, you want to marry the props with the picks. You think the games are going to go a certain way, then play the props to that level. Last night had a lot of success. I did not think Valanciunas, after putting up 18 points in game one, was going to go over again 17.5 points. He came back down to earth, and what happened? Brandon Ingram went off. So today we're going to marry the props to what we think the games are going to go. First one right off the bat, no surprise, Chris Middleton over 20.5 points, minus 120 on DK. Middleton is going to be a focus of the offense. I expect to see him early involved. They cannot leave everything on Giannis because when they do that, the Bulls are stepping in and taking charges. So they need a Robin. Holiday is going to be focused on DeRozan. I'm going with Middleton over 20.5 points at home. I think he gets hot early. I think this is a 14, 15-point first half type of game, and you don't have to sweat this one at all. Chris Middleton over 20.5 points, first prop tonight, minus 120 on DK. Next up, Goran Dragic. Now, I don't think Dragic is going to have a big scoring game, but I do think Dragic is valuable against the Celtics on creating. You know that we've had success here on the live stream picking opposing players against the Celtics because of the switching defense. So you have to hit the roll man. You have to hit the pick and pop man. And Dragic does that very, very well. Savvy veteran point guard. All he has to get for us for plus money is 3 assists. Goran Dragic over 2.5 assists, plus 105 on DK. I love assist props against the Celtics. I love assist props against the Celtics by veteran players who can make that extra pass. I expect tonight Nick Claxton to play a little bit more than Andre Drummond. So we're going to go Dragic. All I need is 3 over 2.5 assists to get that plus money, plus 105 on DK as well. We talked about this one, next one with the Celtics, and it's on our player prop sheet as well. Jason Tatum, I think he has a big game. I don't think the Nets can stop him, and I don't think they want to try to stop him. I think they're going to go after Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum over 30.5 points, minus 115 on DK. He can get threes when he wants. He can get the blow by. I don't think they're going to change their defense to allow Brown to get hot. If you're the Nets, you're saying you pretty much had this game won if you could play defense on the last play and they don't have two players leave their feet on Marcus Smart. So why would you change? I think Tatum gets his points. I bet him when the series started to be the leading scorer in the series, and nothing that happened in game one changed my mind. Jason Tatum over 30.5 points, minus 115 on DK. Couple more here. If you're Steve Nash, you can't keep Andre Drummond in the game very long. He can't guard Al Horford. Al Horford is popping out. Al Horford is hitting threes. He can't stay with him. I expect a lot more Nick Claxton in this game, which is why we are going under Andre Drummond. Now, be careful here. 7.5 points plus 104 on FanDuel. The 8.5 is out there, but the juice is like minus 130, minus 140. If we like it, we're going to press our luck. Andre Drummond under 7.5 points, plus 104 on FanDuel. I think Drummond's minutes are cut down. He may start the game. I believe he's out as a starter already, but that won't last very long. He cannot stay with Drummond. Sure, he hangs around the basket, but this is not the matchup for him. Daniel Tice comes in. Tice can hit some threes. They're going to pull Drummond away, and I think in the end, in the second half, when it's winning time, Nash is going to go with Claxton over Andre Drummond. Same game, different player. Al Horford over 12.5 points, minus 102 on FanDuel. Love everything Horford's doing. There's no Time Lord. There's no Robert Williams. Pick and pop. They're going on Jaylen Brown, trying to eliminate him. Horford is a great player, a mid-range player, a three-point shooter, putbacks, N1, screen and roll. He can do everything. 12.5 points is too low. Love his game one performance. This is also one we love on our cheat sheet. If you check out the cheat sheet as well, we have him projected for 14.5 points, just like we have Tatum projected for a big number as well, 32.5 points. Al Horford over 12.5 points on minus 102 on FanDuel. Another one I like here, Pascal Siakam under 40.5 point rebounds and assists, minus 125 on DK. I said it earlier, folks. Siakam doesn't have the versatile game that he's going to hang 28 or 30 points. I think he can get double-digit rebounds. I just think his points are going to be lower. The juice was a little questionable on some of these. So Pascal Siakam, I think he struggles. Under 40.5 points, rebounds, assists, minus 125 on DK. Same game, Danny Green getting the start. You've seen this number. A lot of sharps were on this number right away. Danny Green's over-under for his points was 7. Then it got up to 8.5. I'm grabbing points, rebounds, and assists. I've been burned a couple times this year when I haven't gone to the points, rebounds, assists. Danny Green's going to get 30, 35 minutes in this game without Matisse Thybulle on the court. He loves those corner threes. Toronto gives up those corner threes. I want the coverage with the points, rebounds, and assists. So Siakam under 40.5 points, rebounds, and assists, minus 125 on DK. Danny Green over 14.5 point rebounds, assists, minus 105 on BetMGM. And last one I'll give you here, Derek White in the Celtics game, over 3.5 assists, plus 115 on DK. I love Derek White. I think he's a huge critical piece. It was a great trade that they made, getting him away from San Antonio. When Derek White was starting in San Antonio, you saw 7, 8, 9 assist games. He is a creator. He comes in the game. He plays hard. He plays defense. He gets the ball up the floor. 3.5 assists seems very, very low. Had 4 last game. Ended the year with a lot of threes, multiple games, 5 or 6 of 3 in a row. But he also had some games where he got to 6 to 8 prior to that here with the Celtics. So I'm going with Derek White over 3.5 assists, plus 115 on DK. I think he pushes the pace, and I have no problem betting on overs going against a Nets defense that is really, really struggling. Last question I got here. Fred VanVleet suffering from a sports hernia. Not only, Darryl, do I think it's a hernia, I think Fred VanVleet's had a knee injury. He's really been banged up. He's a great stationary shooter, but what he has struggled with is being able to attack off the basket and get free. End of the first half in that game, you saw him against the Sixers. He missed 3 threes in a row. Shot one, got it back, took 2 steps to the right, missed it, got it back again. He doesn't have the explosion that he needs to have. If he's going to be a stationary shooter, that's going to be a problem tonight against the Sixers. So just to recap, folks, Picks tonight, we are going with the Celtics laying 3.5 against the Nets team. I still think the public is not backing the Celtics because I believe in the star power, and the under of 226. We have Philadelphia -1.5 against Toronto. I just think the Sixers are too tough and the Raptors are too banged up to make this game anything other than a Sixers win to go to 3-0. And I have the under 216 in this game because Toronto cannot afford to get into an up and down pace. And at home, I think they control the pace. I just think they end up coming short. The Bucks on a big bounce back against the Bulls, laying the 10. They're a championship caliber team. They're a Golden State Warrior level team with full health now with Curry, Thompson, and Draymond Green back. And I think against a team you've dominated, the Bulls could have taken game one. They're not taking it tonight. And then under 225. And then our props, Middleton over 20.5 points, Dragic to do some creation over 2.5 assists at plus money, Tatum, death taxes, and Jason Tatum against his Nets defense over 30.5 points, Andre Drummond under 7.5 points in a game that just does not fit his style, Al Horford over 12.5 points, Pascal Siakam under 40.5 point rebounds assists, Danny Green over 14.5 points rebounds assists because he gets big minutes with Thibault out, and Derek White over 3.5 assists. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Folks, good luck tonight. 9-1 last week. Let's keep it going here. Make some money. 3 great NBA games. Betting Pros live stream. We'll see you next week.